Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another exciting afternoon together. Thank you for sparing us your weekend. I'm hoping we are all going to have a great time together. All our panelists are in the house, and we are really glad to have all of them here together. I'll be introducing them just before they start speaking. The first person to speak will be Dr. Adebusola Oyemide. For those of us that were not at the prayers yesterday, we had parenting prayers yesterday, and it was led by Dr. Sukomi Anjorin. It was a really powerful time together. And it was interesting that he noted that a lot of things are attributed to the internet and that it's a bit more difficult to parent in this age than it was years ago. And that is part of why this topic is very important. We still have time to invite others to join us in this important meeting. So you can still send the link to your friends and your family. And if they are unable to, they can join on YouTube. The YouTube is Temitope Praising Child. I think Dr. Anjorin will be able to post the link shortly so that we can share it with them. But we'll be going straight into the discussion, and we are grateful that you're here. And I will just let us know that as we have questions, we can put it in the chat box. Alternatively, we can raise our hands. All the questions will be taken at the end. Okay, now we have Dr. Adebusola Oyeride. She's a banker of almost 30 years experience. She has a PhD in business administration. She's a mother, and she is a pastor and a pastor's wife. Join me in welcoming Dr. Adebusola Oyeride.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. I am pleased to be here. It's a privilege to be able to speak at conferences like this, where we discuss children and things happening around us. The internet being a case study today. I am a mother to a teenager who is fast moving out of teenage. She was 19 in April. So we seem like we have been able to scale the hurdle of teenage. We are moving into the youthful age now. I give glory to God, it's been beautiful. The internet has actually had a lot of impact. Basically, I'll be speaking from the viewpoint of a parent today. The other panelists will be addressing the professional sides of it. So I'm going to use my child as a case study, how it has been, the internet being a particular point of reference. Having a child when I was a young mother, the internet actually informed my conception, my delivery, taking care of the child right from the beginning, because I was able to have an access to platforms where we were able to monitor growth during pregnancy. There's this pregnant care or something group whereby we're able to move through every stage of the child's development. It was the internet that gave me an access to that particular platform right from the beginning. So the internet played a fantastic positive role. I was able to get informed. Growing up, the internet has helped us in letting us know what to expect from a child of 4-year-old when they became toddlers, what to expect from a child of 10-year-old. So to a reasonable extent, the internet helped in preparing me towards child rearing. Beyond child rearing, the internet opened my eyes to a lot of things that could go wrong in child rearing. Let's face facts. The internet has come. We all are afraid. It's bringing our child into a space beyond us. We don't know what they are doing on the internet. But let me tell you something fantastically today. The internet is it that informs parents who are ready to know anyway about things happening around the world that our children are exposed to that we need to be wary of. It was actually through the internet I got to know that children can be molested. So I was prepared and I was able to protect my child from getting molested. It was from the internet I got to know that when you have a child and somebody comes around calling your child, your girl child, my wife, or they are paying too much attention to your girl child, giving them gifts, and trying to create a rapport beyond the ordinary. It actually was the internet that prepared me to know that all these things are there, that all these things happen. Sincerely, these things had been happening a long time ago. But because there was no internet, the level of sensitization to parents was actually limited. If I've been able to record any success in child rearing, I will ascribe a good percentage to my access to the internet, sincerely speaking. Now, as the child begins to grow, I know sincerely that I am not the only teacher that my child had. She had teachers in the school. She had uncles and aunties around me. She had my friends who are actually family friends. She had parents of her own friends. But do you know there are internet uncles and aunties? Those are people who are not related to me, who have no affinity to my family, but because there's a space on internet, my child had an access to learn from them. Now, as a parent, how was I able to limit that exposure? Number one, I delayed my child's access to internet. I ensured that I gave my child ample information about life, about things to access, to see, before she had an access to have them from outsiders. What am I saying? The Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's gone, he won't depart from it. I give God the glory because I was able to train Wanda on what to expect in the outside space, what may be available to her outside my house, what may be available to her outside the environment which we are actually staying in. So when these occurrences started to happen, they were not strange to her because she had been forewarned. So because we already had a rapport, when she encounters all these incidences, she comes back to me to ask questions. This is what you say is okay. This is what I'm saying as happening. And they are saying it is okay. It is contrary to what you have taught me. How do we balance it up? Because we have the privilege of me being the first teacher. We were able to compare notes, and I was able to re-emphasize that this and this I say is right because you are a child of God, because you are my child. Others may be doing what is wrong. The Bible says this and that. Because of the knowledge of God that we have to live our life this way. We were able to clarify. Now, it wasn't all that easy because along the line, I remember there were times I would call Wanda and say, Wanda, you are doing this, you are doing. Wanda would say, oh, mommy, I forgot. Did I tell you not to be doing things like this? She would say, I forget. So we'll have to remind ourselves again. But the baseline is, if we are able to ensure that a parent is the first teacher a child has. Half of the work is done. Half of the work is done. Another thing I was able to do in limiting my child in the internet space is to ensure that my child did not have unlimited access to other people's spaces. In my house, having a sleepover is a no, no, no. It cannot happen. My child does not sleep outside my house, even up till now. If we are having a holiday, the whole family has the holiday. Some family, I've been able to have an idea of families where close family members are the ones who introduce children to the evil of this world, at times cousins, at times people you even call uncles and aunties. So right from the beginning, we made a rule in my house, no sleepover for my child. Another thing I've been able to do even in the internet space to protect my child is to ensure that I am open and truthful in everything I try to do with her. If I am saying my child should have a limit, as in know what is good view and what is bad view. If I am having a bad view and my child picks my phone and has an encounter on my phone that I have a bad view, all my teachings will actually be null and void. So my own phone does not have a protect against anybody. She has an access to my password, my husband does. So anybody can access my phone at any point in time. So if I make a demand to access her phone, she doesn't raise an objection. So parents, as parents, should endeavor to ensure that when we want our children to have a clean space, ensure that our own gadgets too are clean spaces. What else have we done? I've tried to make friends with the parents of my child. Any friend that she has who is a close friend, excuse me, I try to create a relationship between the child's parents and myself, so that we are all like family friends. And we can share our ideals together. In Wonders Growth, what else have we done? We've done so much.
Should we give you a break, Ma, to get some water?
Please do. Thank you. I'll do it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, Ma.
Thank you, Lord.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another interesting session today, part of our Parenting Conference 2.0. We had a parenting conference last year and it was awesome. If you missed it, please check it out on the YouTube channel. YouTube channel is Team Topper Praising Child. The Link family is committed to building healthy and healthier relationships, wholeness in every area of our lives, be it relationships, family life, and community. There is somewhere you can fit in, get in touch with us. You can be part of the online WhatsApp group, and you can be part of our Friday meetings where we meet to pray and where we meet to have a discussion about life issues. Presently, we're having one about lessons from history, which is very interesting. In the link, we believe that you are the link, I am the link, we are the link to the greatness of others, and God is our link, love is our link. And so we believe in giving, we believe in enlightenment, we believe in empowerment, and we believe in knowledge. Okay. So thank you for joining us for another inspiring time together. We just have a short break so that our panelist, Dr. Oyeride, can have a short water break. Okay. Our other panelists are in the house. We have Dr. Mojisola Adeniji and we have Mr. Oluwaseun Oluboyo. And they'll be taking us on different aspects of the theme. And our theme this year is parenting in the internet age, which is a very, very interesting topic. Dr. Oyeride is presently taking us through her journey as a parent in the internet age and how she trained her child. I don't know whether she's back to join us. Are you back, Ma? Okay, she's
Yes,
back.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Ma.
Yes, thank you very much. Like I was saying, I said the internet is not all bad. There are a lot of privileges I've had that the internet has been actually what has given me the edge over other parents. We said the internet brought into understanding and clarity the fact that a lot of things can go wrong through the internet itself. If I didn't have an access to the internet, I would not know what was actually happening in the outer space. So I was able to know through the internet by myself. But one thing that has helped me is biblical teaching, personal determination. Like in the time of Daniel, when Daniel was thrown into slavery in a strange land, he had an access to so many things that we have an access to internet these days. But because he was able to make a predetermination that he wasn't going to spoil himself, he was able to scale through. The same thing, if a child has been pre-trained, it will be easier for you to scale through parenting. It will be absolutely easier. Seems like I'm saying the internet has plenty of advantages. I am a busy mother. And between my 9 to 5, I am always not available. But sincerely, I've been a telephone parent. My child and myself were always in close contact. Internet made it possible for us to relate at every point in time. If he had, she could reach me at any point in time. It's this same internet that we are calling the devil that has given us the chance to be able to do all that we do, even away from each other. The internet will only make available to your child where your child has an access into the internet. I said we should delay exposing our children to internet. My child didn't have a phone that has internet until she was about 12. And between the birth and that period, all she had was a phone that wasn't Android, couldn't browse. I know it's possible for her to have had access to internet from other children, but we also tried to limit our exposure. Like I said, we don't have sleepovers in my house. We don't have people that are not very close to us coming to spend the night in our house. I sanitize my environment. A parent in the internet age has to be up and doing. We have to be accessible to our child. We have to be a friend to our child. We have to ensure we are knowledgeable about the environment so that internet aunties and uncles will not teach our children what we don't want them to learn. Or rather, we would have actually personally exposed our children to all that is available before they have the supplementary teachings. And by the time they are having it, because we have already established a level, a standard in them. They have a basis of comparison, and they already know what to choose. I pray God will help us. The internet has helped me in training my child. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ma. And thank you for keeping to time. God bless you, Ma.
Amen.
She's kept it nice and short. And thank you for sharing your experience with us. We're grateful for that. I'm sure we picked one or two things from that. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat, or please raise your hands when we take the question session so that we can take the questions together. Thank you all for being here. It's day 2 of our parenting conference of the Link family. God bless you all. And thank you to those that have joined us on YouTube. We are very grateful. Our next speaker, our next panelist is going to be Mr. Oluwaseun Oluboyo. Mr. Oluwaseun Oluboyo is a trained electrical engineer, and he doesn't like me saying that. And he has worked in the telecom space for almost the last 20 years. Join me in welcoming Mr. Oluwaseun Oluboyo.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here. If I can share my screen, please confirm you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you everyone for joining today. We're going to be discussing the topic parenting in the internet age. And to start with, as the first speaker has said, the internet is not all bad. It has the plus sides and the negative sides. And the important thing is that we use it appropriately and we manage our children's words access to it. So a quick overview of our discussion today, we'll be looking at parenting your child. We'll be looking at the internet age, what online presence means, and how we curate and manage our children and our words access to the internet and those facilities. So regarding parenting, I'd like to start with a word that says, don't you say that children are God's best gift, right? And so children are gifts from God. And how do we treat gifts? We don't treat them shabbily. We don't treat them like they are unimportant or some sort of second-rate object or item. We actually should give them the topmost care and concern. Children should be top of mind. And same applies to words when we are legal guardians. In addition to that, there's something called the duty of care, which is the legal obligation to actually protect certain other persons, right? To ensure that they are saved from what could possibly harm them. And the reason this is important is because, especially for legal guardians, you may say, this is not my biological child, or this is not even my child at all, I'm just a Sunday school teacher, or I'm just a class teacher, I'm just an adult in this sphere, in the presence, in the life of this child. But then we should also all see ourselves as having a duty of protecting, of caring, of ensuring that these children get the best possible. Like we say in Africa, it takes a village to raise a child, and not just for the biological parents. So moving on about the internet and the whole concept of online presence, I distinguish between two things: cyber reality and cyber reality. Cyber reality are things like the status, like our status either on WhatsApp or Facebook or whatever it is, which is basically just the state of how things are at a point in time, right? Status can change. You can swap out status messages. In many cases, you can delete them, but I'll get to that in a minute. On the other hand, cyber reality are things like property. So in the real world, we have physical entities, we have buildings, we have land, we have things like that. Now, in the virtual world, there are also things like that that we own, that are persisted. So the distinction really is between reality that tends to be dynamic and change, and reality that tends to be persisted. So I said that earlier on that status can change, but I want us to get certain things clear today. Anything that you put out there, anything that your children or words put out there, when they leave your phone or your laptop or whatever device you're using, they travel through a bunch of other devices, servers, the network, and things like that keep copies. In long and short, anything you post, even if you think you deleted it, be rest assured that at least one copy exists somewhere, and it can be recovered, it can be uncovered, it can be revealed at some future date. Some of them may require maybe a court order or something, telling the service provider to reveal it. In some other cases, maybe providers get hacked or compromised, and those things come out. But the truth is this: the internet never forgets. So anything you are putting out there, be rest assured that with the right application of either force or effort, it will be found. It can be found. And we all have experience using search tools like Google search and the rest of it. And I'll tell you that Google search is a tool in itself. You will find things that you will not believe exist on the internet if you know how to use tools like that. And a lot of people do. So it's very important that we are careful with what we post out there, whether it's be children's photos. We say, oh, this my child is in a birthday. I want to celebrate my child on my DP or on Instagram. Believe you me, you may not like what can be done with some of those things down the road. And specifically because of that, so some of the dangers, right? We look at the concern of privacy, and I believe we can post this so that we can actually get this slide. Let me see if I can just drop it in the chat, because I think these are some things. Maybe after the presentation, I'll drop them in the chat. These are so this video particularly, I think, is something every parent, every guardian should watch. Especially with AI, we are now in an age where people can take a child's picture, speed them up to what they will look like 10, 20 years from now, right? And then create videos you don't want to know about. And the honest truth is we are at a stage where those fake content cannot be distinguished from the real thing. And so we don't want to create a situation where what was an innocent birthday picture, birthday party that was posted online, in future becomes source material for someone who wants to do an identity theft or who wants to set up a child for a crime or something like that. So these are some of the dangers we need to keep them away from. We need to protect them from. There's also the matter of appropriateness. Like the earlier speaker said, there is time for everything. I don't think children below the age of 15, 16 should own a digital device that is exclusively owned. If they have need to, they can share, especially mobile digital device, whether it be a tablet or a phone, something they can take off by themselves and do things that you cannot exactly track. It is too dangerous. And again, this Instagram post actually goes to some explanation about that. So how do we keep them safe? How do we make sure that they are protected from all these dangers that are lurking on the internet? For that, I have this set of 6 things. I tried to create a reverse, and what's it called now? A reverse backronym here, where values, VALUES, and the very first one happens to be values itself, right? So if you look at the first letters, they spell the word values. So we go to the V. The Bible says, teach your children right from wrong, and when they are grown, they will still do right. I like this version for 2 reasons. First of all, it's about teaching. It's about education. It's about providing the necessary information. It's not about scolding them or beating them into submission or compliance. It's actually about communicating a certain value, certain knowledge, right? So that they can, the second part, know right from wrong, learn to do right, and continue to do right. So again, to buttress what the first teacher said, parents are the best and first teachers of any child. There are certain truths that are just best learned at home, nowhere else, not in school, not even in Sunday school. because parents are so believable. Parents are so trustworthy. If this child trusts you for their feeding, their clothing, their accommodation, they'll trust you when you say, this is right, that is not. Right? They have less reasons to trust their teacher. Well, the teacher provides education, but hey, you don't pay my bills. You might be wrong. You might not be thinking in my best interest. But if somebody's paying my bills, is after my welfare, takes me to the hospital when I'm ill, make sure I get my vaccination. If that person says a certain thing is not good for me, probably isn't good for me. Right? So let us as parents, as guardians, be the first and most important teachers in the lives of our children and our words, and teach them especially to be good and kind and true in all things. Because this just applies. The beauty of principles is that they apply in any number of situations and circumstances. So you don't actually have to know those situations and circumstances ahead of time. A stands for alertness and attention. We need to be present. We need to be available. We need to be there with them. We need to be engaged. We need to be involved. We need to understand that the internet, like I said, is not good or bad. And the analogy I have here is that of a busy highway. So you have, say, something like Third Mainland Bridge here in Lagos. For those in the UK, maybe, I don't know the UK very well. Don't shoot me if I get it wrong. The M4, I think the M4 is a very busy expressway, right? You won't have a 7-year-old cross a road like that unguided, unaided. No way. Now, is it because the road is bad? No, the road is not bad. It's just not safe if you don't have a certain competence. And it's the same thing with the internet. It's not a safe place. It's not intrinsically safe. It can be made safe. It has safe parts, but children need certain hand-holding. They need guidance. They need help. And so we need to be there with them. We need to be able to help them spot what is wrong. Then they learn from that. Oh, mommy, can I look at this? No, don't. Daddy, can I look at this other one? Oh, yeah, that is fine. And then with practice, they learn to make those decisions by themselves, which brings us again to that point about teaching. We teach them, they get better at it. Then after a while, you can give them some space. Now, not all content, even things that are labeled parental guidance or child-friendly, not all content are actually children-friendly. So it helps to preview things so that you can make those decisions by yourself. The L stands for leadership. Children are natural born copycats. They are perfect mimics. They will do everything you do. Earlier this evening, I think I was wearing this morning rather, I think I was wearing my shoes or something, and my daughter was following the motions. She wasn't wearing any shoes, but this man is doing this. Maybe I should do what he's doing, right? And so in the same way, we should understand that if we model good behavior, they will copy good behavior. You don't do the do what I say, not what I do thing. You do the do what I do, exactly as I do it. In fact, do nothing else except what you see me do. If you want to do something you haven't seen me do before, ask me. If need be, I will model it to you. So that way you know that they have a trustworthy source of their information. Because trust me, if you don't lead them, other people will. Their peers in school, celebrities and other people in TV, somebody somewhere will lead them. They are born to copy. So be the ones they copy. U stands for understanding. So beyond knowledge is understanding. And I'm sure we all have experience of children asking a billion whys. Why? And at the point you'll be like, because I said so. Bad idea. Because I said so means I'm done with you. I'm not willing to provide any more information. Go ask somebody else, because they will ask somebody else. The question is who and what responses are they going to get? And are you going to like the responses they get? So please pray for patience if you need to. Pray for understanding. But please be available to answer the whys. They want to know. They genuinely want to understand. If we can help them fill in those gaps, they will be the better for it. E takes us to education. It is important that we're able to provide resources that are safe, that are healthy. Again, that we have curated, we have previewed ahead of time, because they have this hunger for information. The world is going to tell them they are missing out on this, they're missing out on that. And if what you can do is provide books, if what you can do is provide maybe videos, again, not everything electronic or digital is bad. The key thing is to make sure that it is safe and it is age appropriate. So if we can encourage them to learn from resources provided, to ask questions, right? To have these conversations where they have the confidence to ask their questions, to know that there are no bad questions. Certain questions may mean that you get answers that may mean that the answers are not appropriate for you, and you'll be told why it is not appropriate, and that at some future dates when you can handle it, it will be shared with you. So that confidence lets them know, okay, mom, dad knows what's best for me. Maybe I need to wait 2-3 years to get this particular answer, so that they don't go somewhere else to go digging. And finally, S is for systems and software. So many times we think that technology is the solution to this problem of the internet and its dangers. And I dare say it is not. The best solution ever is to actually be offline. There is nothing like being offline. When we were children, I don't want to date myself here, we used to climb trees. We used to play football on the streets. We used to learn social interaction by actually interacting with people in social contexts, right? You understood how to hold your peace. You understood how to settle quarrels. You understood how to not get in a fight because you are interacting with real human beings. Today, everybody jumps in a car. They step out of the car. They go in the building, lock the doors behind them, and they don't get to interact with anybody else except their siblings. And God help the only child. Where are they supposed to learn those human relation skills from? Definitely not the internet. Because again, the internet has this stylized way of presenting information, right? So where technology is necessary, let us make ourselves familiar with them, because there are quite a number of solutions out there that can help. So we have things like Google Family Link, Bark, Net Nanny, and a bunch of other parental control tools that we can look up and get familiar with. So some of this will protect smartphones, some of this will protect browsers and laptops and things like that. So we can adopt the appropriate ones for whichever device it is that the child is using. But remember again, it is best to not give devices until they are ready for them. So finally, I now have another acronym here, which is for SMART. It says, stay safe. It is important that children learn to not share information that is not necessary. Don't meet up with anyone offline that you've met online without letting the parent or an adult know. So not everybody who you think is a 7-year-old is actually a 7-year-old on the other side. Some of them are grooming these children for all sorts of things. Don't accept files, emails, whatever it is from people you don't know. You can compromise your device and things like that. Check that the information you're about to share is reliable. We're in the age of WhatsApp forwards, and WhatsApp will even tell you something has been forwarded many times. And some of this is just not true. So we should also teach our children our words the importance of verifying the information they're about to share. And finally, most importantly, if something makes you uncomfortable, tell someone, tell a trusted adult, a teacher, a parent, a guardian, whoever it is. With these few points, I hope this has helped, and God will help us to protect our children online and offline. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oluboyo. This has been really insightful. I think you can stop sharing your screen.
Good question. I'm trying to find out how to stop sharing. Okay, I think I got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Amen.
Yes, so I'm hoping that we are all having an exciting time being here. It has been really insightful so far, and we are going to the next speaker very shortly. And we've let's say I hope we'll be able to say we've saved the best for the last. Okay. Our final speaker is Dr. Mojisola Adeniji. I'll just be bringing her up shortly. Dr. Mojisola Adeniji is a medical practitioner of over 20 years experience. She is also a specialist in psychiatry in the UK and in Nigeria. and she will be speaking to us about her perspective about this topic. Join me in welcoming Dr. Mojisola Adinji. You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a delight to be here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sometimes my volume goes off. It's a delight to be here. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be a part of this conference. I'm very grateful. So this afternoon, I will be speaking about the medical and mental impact of internet use. And I also want to thank the two previous speakers. They've, I mean, I've learned so much myself about, parenting and internet use. But I think it's just to provide some information about medical and mental impact of internet use. So and I think one recurring thing that even the previous speakers have said, excuse me, is that the internet is somewhat like I would like to view it like a tool. And with everything that is a tool can be something, it's just like a hammer. A hammer can be used to injure someone. It is also an instrument that can be used to build a house, so that's how I like to look at the internet. And the internet is, it's not just it comprises of a lot of spaces. So there's social media, there are web browsers, there are different apps, there is mobile devices, et cetera, et cetera. And these are all just aspects of the internet. And the reason why I use the analogy of the hammer can be used as for good or bad, it's just the internet it has positive impact and it has the negative impact. And that's how I'd like to also look at the internet, because I know people who have met spouses on the internet and they are married. I know people who have struck up businesses met people on the internet and struck up businesses on the internet. I know people who have gotten information from the internet that has improved their lives. So, and even for children, even for parents and children, there's lots of positive things you can actually get from the internet. So I'll start out by saying one of the positive impacts of using the internet is access to information. I can almost say the access to the internet the human brain cannot even conceive it. It's almost limitless. There's all types of information that people can access on the internet. For children, I think there are a lot of course, with the support and guidance of parents, there's lots of online courses, online resources, educational opportunities that people can actually access on the internet. I was watching a documentary the other day, and they were talking about there was this village in India where I think they had just a laptop or a computer and very limited access to the internet. And the children in this village didn't have access to education. But the charity that was set up, somewhere in another part of the world was actually taking, giving these children information, educational information. So I wouldn't want us to, that is one of the positive aspects of using the internet. Also, there's lots of medical information too that can be also accessed from the internet. And this information and resources can empower parents, can empower individuals and even children to manage their health better. Another advantage, positive impact of the internet is connection. So there are lots of support networks. I would talk about Link Family. There are lots of people I haven't met, but because we have a WhatsApp group, people share. There's lots that we do on the group. It's on WhatsApp, but there's lots of connection that that takes place on a lot of networks, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, YouTube, Telegram. And for people who might not have that opportunity, for whatever reasons, who don't have the opportunity to network or socialize with other people for whatever reason, the internet does serve as a way to connect with other people, and send emails, and connect with other people. Also staying in touch with other people, staying in touch with family, friends over long distance, people that you would love to see every day, but you can't for just for the, reason of distance. I think the internet serves to build social connection and build communities. Another advantage is like the internet is littered with many tools, many tools. There are resources. I remember Dr. Shala, she's here on the she's very keen about parenting. I remember one of her talks, and she was talking about when she had her children. She actually was this app that she used to actually was using to monitor how her children were developing. And the information being provided on that app was helping her to gauge, okay, is my child meeting all of, the growth milestones that is appropriate for their age. And she raved about the app, and so that's just an example of one of the many tools people have used the internet. I mean, I'll give another example of Hallelujah Challenge. I mean, a lot of us are Christians here. A Hallelujah Challenge would stream to when it goes live, there are sometimes it's 300,000 people watching from different parts of the world. People as far-flung in Asia, people who can't come to Nigeria to worship with Nathaniel Bassey, people are accessing the internet. So that is just one of the ways that, it's a tool that brings people together. And whether we like it or not, the access is it's got its negative parts, but it can be a source of relaxation and entertainment. Music, games, watch movies, we can play games on the internet. These are all forms of relaxation, and these are some of the examples of positive aspects of the internet. So I'll go ahead to talk about the negative aspects of the internet. So because with accessing the internet, because I'm talking about the medical and mental now, so that I'll be dividing it into the physical health and mental health. So for how the internet can actually impact a person's mental health or physical health negatively is people who are sat for long periods of time using the internet, it can lead to a sedentary lifestyle. Of course, with a sedentary lifestyle, this can contribute to diseases like obesity, high blood pressure, stress, muscle strain, neck strain, eye strain from prolonged use from using the internet, headache, vision problems, back problems. I mean, I know a few people who've due to sitting for long periods of time using the internet for work, for other purposes, I've ended up with quite serious medical problems. So I think these are some of the physical health issues that comes with being on the internet or using the internet for long periods of time. When we're looking at the negative impact of the internet especially on one's mental health, it's not yet a clinical diagnosis, but a lot of professionals are beginning to coin out a term called internet addiction. And I mean, internet addiction would be a person using the internet up to the point that it's beginning to, they spend long hours on it. When they're away from it, they begin to feel almost there is a for want of a better word, a craving to want to use the internet. I mean, there are people who have sat for long hours in front of devices, who have not ate, who have not drank, in very seriously extreme cases, spend long hours, and it's beginning to affect their relationships, beginning to impair their like the educational pursuits, beginning to, and I know earlier I mentioned about social connection, but if if the internet is not used with caution, it can actually isolate individuals. So people can start to not interact with other people, spend time, with other people and stuff like that, especially for children. I think one of the dangers of unsupervised internet use um, is a lot of children come across um, unsavory characters on the internet. Um, there are people who are waiting, lurking to posing as people who they are not, to grown children. I've come across a couple of cases where um, people who are taking advantage of children on the internet were asking them to, and there was like, I think was it Snapchat now, or TikTok? I know TikTok is a very popular one among even children as young as 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where there are these really dangerous challenges where so there was this particular one where there was a challenge that children were asked to put a bag over their head. And yeah, children were asked to put bags over their head and to like, what's the longest you can, go without breathing? And there were actually people who died. There were children actually who died from taking part in this challenge. And because it went viral on TikTok. So these are some of the, dangers of taking part in dangerous challenges, being exposed to sexually explicit things on the internet, um, you know, children being asked to, send pictures of themselves in vulnerable positions and things like that, because it's very common on the internet. So that's why, like our previous speakers have said, you have to be a very intentional parent. You have to be somebody who's very hands-on, putting all the checks and balances to ensure that even if your child is accessing the internet, they're doing it safely. Another aspect of mental health that the internet can impact negatively it's become quite common for a lot of young people and children to with excessive use of social media, especially, to start to feel feelings of inadequacy. So they see people on Instagram, on TikTok, and they start to have difficult, self-esteem problems with confidence, and then they start to get anxiety and depression. I know of somebody, a family friend actually, whose daughter started to self-harm. She started to cut herself because she was being bullied by her classmates on the internet. She was just a young girl, because she liked a boy in class, and these other girls liked that same boy. So they went, and they follow each other on I think it was Snapchat. They follow each other on Snapchat. So they started cyberbullying her, posting pictures of her, making fun of her on the internet, spreading lies and things about her. And this was a young teenager, and then she started to self-harm. She started to experience problems with anxiety and depression and social comparison and all of that. So that is why that's one big reason why I think we need to be careful about, what children are exposed to, especially on the internet. Also, one of the other things with screen time, I mean, when we look at the screen too much, there's something called blue light, and this blue light has been found by researchers to actually disturb a person's sleep cycle. So it's not uncommon for people to start to have sleep difficulty or reduced sleep quality due to blue light exposure and mental overstimulation. So sometimes if a child is finding it difficult, you want to sleep, you might want to, is this child spending excessive amounts of time, watching TV, watching devices, especially. And I want to add something, and I think it's important why we as parents just need to be quite very, very intentional. And because something happened. So in the United States, not too long ago, the owners of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, big, big, big internet companies were called to stand before Congress because there was a lot of research coming in, and they were showing that um, you know, teenage suicide, eating disorders, was being linked to internet use. And I mean, the evidence that was presented was almost irrefutable. And I'm saying this to say that the people who own these companies, I'm telling you that they would not, the way the people who use the internet and use all these apps, the way people expose their children to it, they as private individuals, they don't expose their children because they know what they are selling. So these people don't necessarily have they don't necessarily have your best interest at heart. They're not particularly too concerned about how it might be negatively impacting our children. And I think I'm saying that to drive home the point again that it is very important that as parents that we take absolute responsibility for what our children consume, the things they have access to, because the people that provide these services, they're not particularly too concerned because they are selling something. What they're actually buying is they're actually buying our attention. And once they buy attention, they're able to sell us something. They're able to sell us ideas, values, beliefs, and ideologies. That's what they're trying to, a lot of them are trying to sell to the younger generation. So I think that's why it's so, so, so important. And I know I talked about the physical base, but I think what we are beginning to see, as at least for me as a mental health professional, I'm beginning to see a lot of this in conversations with my patients, conversations with parents, how this is actually affecting young people. I mean, I didn't have this growing up, I'm not going to date myself either, but I didn't I didn't have this in the internet growing up because like engineer said, we would go out, play with friends, interact. But the truth and the reality is these devices, they do exist. And the next generation, they are the ones actually, they're the ones who are actually who are going to invent a lot of these things further. Um, Other negative impacts include, it can affect academic performance with, attention span. This has been clearly demonstrated that the longer you spend, like I said, it's what they're actually wanting to what they're trying to get from people is people's attention. And the longer you spend on these devices and using the internet, it actually begins to affect things like your concentration, your attention. And we know that we want our children to excel in life, excel at their academic activities. So that's one of the things. You can impair focus and attention. And of course, when the internet is full of so much information, and of course, it can become quite overwhelming, leading to fatigue and stress. So I'll just quickly mention, and our previous two speakers, just to iterate what they've said, they've done beautifully, is to balance the use of the internet. Like I said, it's a tool. It's got the negative and positive aspects of it. So set limits, and make sure it's age appropriate, set limits on screen time, ensure that there's a balance between the online and offline use, offline activities. Honestly, I would even say promote more of offline activities. Honestly, get your children playing, get your children interacting with other people, get your children speaking to, reading books. That's what I would say. Far less online time, at least until they become adults and they decide what they want to do. Um, so things if the nature of what you do is such that you have to spend considerable amounts of time in the internet, ensure that you are protecting yourself from blue lights. There are actually things there's I think equipments you can buy to actually protect your eyes from blue lights. Ensure you get a comfortable chair so you don't put strain on your back. And also, I mean, I think it's important that as parents that we be keep updated with what is actually happening. I think it's unwise to bury our heads in the sand and to say, oh, internet, I think as a parent, you should, um, and be enlightened. What is the latest, app now that all the young people are pursuing? Something else came to my mind now that some young people they have tried to circumvent, parental supervision. And sometimes when they're even chatting, they use acronyms that even parents don't understand. Some young people have actually gotten to that extent. It's almost like it's a type of language that between them and the person they are communicating with. So even if their parents read their phone or whatever, the parents won't understand. So I think as a parent, it is part of now your parental responsibility to say, okay, what are young people up to? What if I come across something that I'm not too sure my child is up to and is sinister, but then they're trying to hide it from me? How can I be discerning? How can I know that, they're not up to no good? So I think in addition to everything else, providing food, shelter, love, affection, correction, discipline, I think now for the 21st century parents, it's pertinent that you know what is going on in that space and being able to navigate that space well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mojisola. That's been highly insightful. I'm hoping that we can take questions now. Please, let's start having hands up so that we can take questions from the house about what has been discussed so far. Let's have questions. Feel free to raise your hand. We have questions for the speakers. I'm hoping we have questions for them and everything has not been completely crystal clear. Thank you, Dr. Ogulade. I can see your hand. I'm going to bring them all to the screen now. Okay. Yes, Dr. Ogulade and Mrs. Adebayo Victoria, I can see your hands. Dr. Ogulade, you can go first. Let's hear you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I really enjoyed the conference. It has been very enlightening. Yeah, I just want to say one or two things. Sincerely speaking, from experience, I think we should delay our time in introducing our children to smartphone. From my experience, my daughter, who happens to be my first child, didn't get to have an access to smartphone until she was 12. Unfortunately for me, we relocated to UK last year. So my little boys, I introduced them to, because of the boredom, UK, just in the all time. They were new, so they weren't doing anything much. You don't really know much about the country. So I was forced to get them a tab and introduce them. So it's been a hell of a trouble, sincerely controlling them. I realized my 12-year-old daughter was able to, maybe, I don't know, maybe because she's old, I don't know. She was able to control ourselves to the point that, if she drop that phone, she'll drop it and she'll go about other things. But these boys, it has been a hell of a time. So luckily for me, I got Family Link on Google. So when I was able to attach through that, I was able to control how they have access to their phone. But my question is, during the school days, how many hours? We've been talking about screen times. That has been a problem because they want to spend more time. I use 2 hours during school days. Then weekend is actually the problem. I don't know how many hours do I not on weekend now. Once they wake up, do their early morning chores from morning till night. They are ready to stick to that phone. And what they do is games, nothing else. So I've been looking at a balance. I don't know. My question is, how many hours can we say, okay, during the weekends or during the days, school days, how many hours are they entitled to that we think is safe for them? So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Adebayo Victoria, let's take your question as well. We're expecting more questions.
As a matter
Let's
of
have your
fact, good
question.
afternoon. Good day, everyone, because I don't know what time it might be in our own side. As a matter of fact, I was going to say before our moderators will answer that question, let me just add my own because it's similar. I wanted to ask how parents can be helped. I mean, parents who are not as digitally savvy as this new breed, this Gen Z gen, I don't know what latest gen we are now. How can the parents, because these children are now way ahead of us. I know of a case of a mentor who was on a child, and then he said he just woke up in the middle of the night and checked, I don't know what he was looking for, now saw the kind of DP, the display picture the child used. So like, why did this girl use this kind of display picture? So in the morning, now called her up as a mentor. Incidentally, she has changed it. Said, but I saw your DP around 2 a.m. Said, that one is for my group chat that I'm doing. This one you are seeing now is for daddy and mommy. Because daddy and mommy comes to see the phone in the mornings. This child has access to the phone in the middle of the night, and then for the kind of places she goes to in the night, she has another kind of display picture. Now, many parents don't know all of these things, all these slogans, everything that goes on online. How can we help the old school parents like us, and then to now form that kind of synergy for us to monitor the current trends? Thank you.
Okay. I don't know who wants to take this question or who's willing to go first. Among our panelists. Okay. Yes, Mr. Oluwaseun, let's have you.
Thank you. It's not an easy thing really, because they have time on their hands, and a lot of parents don't have time on their hands, don't have as much time on their hands. So to be honest, it is very convenient to give them a device and cross your fingers and hope for the best. Honest truth is, it can be so very dangerous, right? A lot of content on the internet, if you notice, you don't actually pay for. So you use YouTube. YouTube streams videos. You use Instagram. You can see videos. You can see messages, and a lot of those things you don't pay for. You just see advertising, right? Truth of the matter is this: when you are getting value that you're not paying for, then you have to ask yourself, how is the provider able to fund that activity? How are they able to do it sustainably? It's by advertisement. And that means you are the product. You, the user, are the product that is being sold, being marketed to the advertisers. And the advertisers want to maximize their profit. So one of the videos I shared in the link, in the chat, how they addict us, right? It will be useful to watch some of those videos and realize that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that is designed to hook, to addict. We think of addiction, we think of the drug industry, that is illicit drugs. That's what comes to mind. But that's the same thing that's happening in this space. So it is pretty dangerous to hand them a device unsupervised, because that device and the apps they use will learn the things that interest them and show more and more of those things to them and make it more difficult for you to ever win them of it. So every day they go a step deeper into that addiction. We don't like the term, but that is what it really is. And so that's why after a while it becomes a struggle. They start to cry and wail, and you wonder what's going on. Weren't you just watching cartoons? How is that such a big deal? But that is gradually rewiring their brains. Now, with regards to the children that have devices, like the young lady that had one DP in the middle of the night, I don't think that particular child is ready to have a device unsupervised, right? It is super important for a child to have built a certain self-worth, to know who I am, or as we say in Africa, know the child of whom you are. to the point where peer pressure will not make me put on one particular DP for one group. If they don't like who I am, bye-bye to the group. And I think we need to be able to inculcate that confidence of self-identity, of a positive, wholesome identity in children before they lay their hands on the device, especially unsupervised. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That's very, very key. The importance of identity. Dr. Christiana Fatola has put a comment on the chat that register them for engaging coding classes that gives assignments and quizzes. This can be counted as screen time, but this time it is productive. And Dr. Mojisola has also put in the chat, I think it's a book, Raising Children in a Digital Age and How Screen Addiction is Hijacking Our Kids and How to Break the Trance. She has also put that in and she has something to say. Go ahead.
To the first person who asked the question, because he just moved, I think he said he just moved to the UK. So it's,
yes.
So this environment is a bit peculiar. It's not like Africa, where Funke, I'm going to say this in Yoruba, sorry for the non-Yoruba speaking, and I'm saying it for effects. Funke, sorry, losodo, mama Bumi kaleke lo sherembe. Just say, go to Mama Bumi's house and go play with, or go play with Mama Bumi's children. It's not like that in the UK, unfortunately. The society is not set up that way where, you are that, there are instances where you can get that familiar with your community or your neighbors, but they are not as communal as we are in Africa. I live in the UK and I've observed, how parents, you might find out maybe like in church when people are really getting to know you, your family, that type of thing. But in like you live in an area, you can't just dash into somebody's house and say you want to start playing with your children. It's not like that. I had that kind of experience growing up. I knew my neighbors' kids, we were all friends and all that. So I think the assignment, and it's parenting, isn't it, is to start to think of how can I creatively engage my child. There are loads and loads of, I know immigrants, we tend to have that problem because we are not really very familiar with the environment. But I'm telling you that there are things that you can sign up your children for. I think first and foremost, I think you should get your children reading a book. Books do wonders for the mind of a child. Get your children reading books. And, you can set it up in such a way that it's just a suggestion, set it up in such a way that, if you read a book, I will take you out for ice cream or whatever, or if you read a book, if you read 2 books, I would take you somewhere, It's not that you're bribing the child, but it's a way of, some form of behavioral modification. So I think first time, I think getting your children reading a book, getting their heads in a book is a good place to start. There are a lot of things you can do in the Dr. Fatola has made a couple of suggestions about coding and all that. But if you don't want them even just looking at devices, there are activities, you can take them on walks, you can have them join a club, chess club. For children, you can take them to taekwondo. Those things don't involve devices at all, So I think is somewhat becoming a bit more aware of your environment, saying, okay, what are the peculiarities as a parent, not just even as an immigrant parent living in a place where I didn't grow up, and I don't want my child to sort of pick up, because it's so easy for children to access these devices. So it's somewhat a bit of some work for you, sir, but it's very possible for you to reduce screen time for your children and get them involved in activities that are quite productive and that would develop their brain. And like an engineer has said, they are trying to, and I genuinely believe that they are trying to hijack the mindsets and the values and the beliefs of children. That's what I genuinely believe. And you as a parent, you are that stopgard, you are that safety net for those children. No matter how they feel, and it can feel convenient. So just take the device, I'm busy. But honestly, I'm telling you, it's like you are giving your child away. Literally, that's what's happening. You are actually giving your child away, especially in the West. especially, I'm not demonizing the West. I've been living here for a number of years, but it's like you're giving your child away, honestly.
Thank you very much for that. I think Sister Adebusola had a comment as well. Let's hear you, Dr. Adebusola.
Thank you very much. In addition to what everyone has said, I want to also bring up an idea of ensuring we train up our children in the way they should go. Whether they are teenagers or 10 years old or they are youths or anyhow, they will eventually grow and leave us one day. So it's actually better for us to have ensured that we inculcate in them the idea we want them to spend their lives with, now and later. Training up our child in the godly way, you can never err. Sincerely speaking, let's use the biblical teachings to groom these children. In addition to any other thing we want to add to it, it's important for our children to know their identity. They will not be looking for validation outside their space. If they have an identity and they are aware of it, they will live according to their identity. I love Daniel. Daniel knew where he was coming from. He knew what was a taboo to his lineage. He knew what he can venture into. So he chose. Even in the limited choices that he seemed to have, he knew he still had choices. These children have choices, if only they are aware of it. And once a child takes up a decision that this is what I want to do, nobody will be able to pressure him or her into doing otherwise. A lot of them are looking for validation. Let's face facts. They want to belong to the group. But if we already tell them, this is where you belong, and this place is better than whatsoever option or any other option you have, then let's continually remind them. They forget. Children have a low span of retention of knowledge. They forget. So we must continue reminding them. The Yorubas will say, Kokoko no faditi. So what we teach them 2 weeks ago, we still say, after a while, they will say we are sounding like a broken record. Fine. But we have to continue telling them. Then we have to be good examples. Somebody said we have to be role models. Sincerely, we have to be. Our children must not pick up our phones and see us doing what we have told them not to do. We must be role models. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. I think in the world we live in today, even adults controlling themselves with their phones can be difficult. So we can imagine how difficult it can be with with children, because sometimes you can be looking at statuses all day if you let yourself go and just be laughing and smiling and responding and doing all that kind of thing. And you're supposed to be an adult with a profession. So you can imagine the kind of distraction it is for a child. But I really appreciate the point we have made about identity. So we as adults, do we know who we are? Are we able to inculcate that identity into our children? I think it's not for nothing that in the Bible days, the Bible said they should write it on their hands, they should write it on their foreheads, they should do this, they should do that, and it would be like an overkill. But it was so that it was deeply ingrained in them who they were as Israelites. We have a comment from Dr. Shola Fatola. Please go ahead, Shola.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much to the speakers. So Dr. Ogunlade has asked specifically how long should a child be on a device for, either on weekday or weekends. My contribution is it's a popular opinion that 2 hours, not more than 2 hours, a child should not be on a device for more than 2 hours. And I will say specifically that these 2 hours should be limited to the weekend, maybe Saturday 2 hours, Sunday 2 hours. Now, during the weekdays, children always have activities online, either in school or outside school. So they're usually given assignments to do or homework or something to practice. However, some schools that don't give assignments, if you go and if you look at their school web page, you'll find so many online resources that these children can use. So in terms of weekdays, you can ask the school, how long do they have on screen time during the weekdays? in terms, because they have to do some work on screen. You can't take that away from this generation anyway. What we are just trying to say is that they should, whatever they are doing online should be productive. Even if it's game, there's chess game online, it just needs to be productive and it has to be accountable. So if you can say that, okay, in the school, you speak with the teacher and the teacher is saying, okay, maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Now, inculcate, if you want your child to use the device during the weekdays, then inculcate that 15 minutes into, then you can reduce the weekdays to an hour, weekends 2 hours, weekdays 1 hour. But you have to be making sure that that time that they spent in school on the screen is being accounted for. Now, what I do with mine is I go online to go for and look at the school resources. Yeah, you know, they don't give them homework. They don't even bring homework from school. They will just tell them practice, or the school has a the school will tell you go to the resources. So use those resources online even before they go to school. If it's what they want to do, that's fine. But make sure that they are doing something like maths or English, or they are using their school resources, because what that does, it jumpstarts the brain. Like we have said, all the speakers have said, is just the balance for devices, but that children will not use devices, it cannot be possible, okay? All we just want to do is making it very productive. And there are so many things we've talked about it, there are so many things you can actually do online. So just make sure that it's being accountable, and let children know. Like I used to talk about consequences. You cannot give a child a device and tell the child after 2 hours. One thing is that you can link it to your phone. After 2 hours, turn it off, or automatically, if you use the right link or resources, the timer automatically turns off after 2 hours. So the child know that they can't use it. Now the question is, what do? They will start telling you, oh, I'm bored, or start throwing tantrum. Let them know right there and then that once that device is off after 2 hours, any tantrum or any stuff about that is not logical, let them start having consequences and stick by the rules. The consequence might be tomorrow you miss that screen time, and let it be, no matter what. Because part of what we parents are doing is that we want to rest, and then we give them the devices, and we're not helping them. That's number one. Number two, toys. You must be willing to spend money, because there are toys that are very educative. Lego is one toy that a child can build and learn to use machine. So that is part of it. Number three, let them use devices, even with the 2 hours, but make sure that they are being productive. It could be learn this chessboard today. That's your task on the screen. So you're having that 2 hours, but those 2 hours are not for game. Those 2 hours, maybe 1.5 of it could be you giving them something to do on the internet, and then they having maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes of their own to do what they want to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That's been really helpful. Thank you so much. It's been such an insightful time. I don't know that we have any more questions from the house before we take our final remarks from our speakers. Any comments? Okay, you're getting a thumbs up. Okay, all right. Let us take our final remarks from our panelists. We'll take Dr. Mojisola first. In the order in which you spoke, in the reverse order in which you spoke. All right.
Thank you again for having me at the conference today. I think my final remarks would be, so the 21st century parent has to be an intentional parent and a digitally savvy parent, in addition to everything else you're going to be doing as a parent. And I'll leave my words at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's short and concise. Yes, Mr. Aluboyo.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure being here today. And as Dr. Mojisola has said, we have to realize that we are raising children for the future. So we can't exactly copy and paste the things that worked for us, because we grew up in a different time. They are growing up in a world where they have to use the internet. They have to use these tools. The important thing is to teach them how to use these things appropriately and safely. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Dr. Adebusola Oyeride, let's have final remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been nice. I would like to say that the internet is fantastic. Just as it has its bad sides. Let parents be intentional in identifying the good side of the internet and the bad side. And let's strike a balance. We can't close our eyes to the internet. It's useful for us. But we can't throw caution to the winds too. There must be a balance. There must be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Balance is key. God bless you all. Thank you so much to our panelists. We are very grateful that you've spoken to us today. We hope we can call on you another time to speak to us. And if you don't mind, please kindly share your links and your slides on the WhatsApp group so that we can benefit from them, so that everyone can benefit from them on the WhatsApp group. And if you're not on the WhatsApp group and you want to be on the WhatsApp group, kindly speak to the person that invited you, or you can wait behind and I would add you to the group after the meeting. Big thank you to those that joined us on the YouTube channel. We are grateful. And thank you to everyone that joined us on the Zoom today. Thank you very much. Our final words will be our words that we used to say when we were Find the Link Parenting. And that is I. Just repeat after me. I. And the children God has given me.
to me.
I am the children God has given me.
We are for signs and wonders.
They are for signs and for wonders.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you for being part of our conference this year. We appreciate you all. Join us next week, Friday. We're going to have